welcome to SCIP. Thank you, Selena. Thank you all for joining. We're so excited to have you here. We know that the attendance and timing is a little weird because of the holidays. We tried it out. We're just trying it out on a Friday to see how it goes. We're going to continue to play with the dates, but we are excited for those of you that are able to make it. We've had a lot of really cool topics that we've talked about, and we're really excited about the topic that we're going to talk about today. I'm not introducing it, but what I want to do before I hand it off is encourage everyone to consider, if you have not attended any conferences recently, to consider going to one, because it really does change your frame of mind. It gives you opportunities to network, which is why we're all here, and also to bring things back, because we're only as good as what we can learn, and that helps us improve. So for those that went to the Lean conference, I hope you enjoyed it. For those that went to Vizient, I hope you enjoyed it. If you don't know where you want to go, IHI is coming up in December. You can go out to Orlando and enjoy that weather and environment. But we just encourage you all to consider adding conferences and publishing and blogging to the list of things that you do to increase your capability. So with that being said, again, I want to thank everyone for coming. I'm going to turn it over to Michael so he can introduce our topic of today.
Yeah, well, hi, everybody. It's so great to see everybody safe. Some of you we saw at the Lean conference. The speaker this time is really dear to us because one of our main pillars, one of our main goals is to really improve on our diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so Leslie's been called upon many times, as I've been called upon many times. It's like, what are we going to do for this? So Leslie is the DE&I program manager, and she's been a big help for me. Most of the teams, I just take the toolkit that she's provided and say, I read it and then I just kind of quote it. So people think I'm doing the work, but it's really Leslie doing the work. So I'm really excited to have her present to all of us. She's wonderful to work with. So Leslie, we'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Michael. And I also want to just greatly appreciate the PI team. Michael, you and your colleagues have been really great supporters in this sort of new arena we've embarked on at Stanford Children. So thank you for having me here. Thank you for inviting me, Michael. I'm Leslie Trong. So I'm the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Program Manager with Stanford Medicine Children's Health. I've been here now for 3 years. But I tell people I took a 4.5-month break to have a baby, but it's 3 years. 3 years. So, and we've really been through quite a journey in my time here. I am the first person to hold this position for the organization, so that's pretty fun. I also do interact regularly with my counterparts at the other Stanford Medicine entities. So I do a lot of work locally with children's, but I also regularly touch base with other folks that do this work around Stanford Medicine. So it's really a very interesting network of people that have been pushing forward this work. So what Michael asked me to come share with you all today is this toolkit we developed. I don't know how familiar you all are with our fiscal year 23 Respect for People core goal that's related to DE&I, but I have a PowerPoint slide deck that I could show you. I repurposed a lot of these slides from a town hall that we had in September, where we presented to leaders sort of like a kickoff to this specific Respect for People goal. And so I'm repurposing some of the slides because at this town hall is when we introduced this toolkit that is available on the internet to our employees. If it's okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Leslie,
yeah.
As you think about which slides to share, what I'd really love for you to think about is this is a mainly improvement professional. So how we can look at improvement through the lens of DEI, or vice versa, look at DEI through the lens of improvement. So, did I say what you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I'm going to be very honest. I was not so familiar with the performance improvement process or function. I will not say I'm super familiar either, but I learned a lot. I had a huge crash course over the summer to prepare for this organizational goal. And so, so Ryan, I really like your question. And yeah, and I would lean on all of you too to kind of think about that from your lens. So what I'm sharing with you, how you might see it from you know, an improvement perspective. Because I'm not going to come and say I'm the expert on all things, because I'm definitely not. I think I'm always learning as well as we go. So, so with that, I think I found my slide deck. Can you all see? Oops, there we go. Can you all see the screen? Great. So like I said, I repurposed a lot of slides from the leadership town hall that we had in September. So this is very wordy, but I think it's important that anytime a topic around diversity, equity, inclusion, and health equity comes up, it's always good to sort of ground ourselves in some sort of group norms and things like that. So the goal language is on the left side of your screen. So 100% of our department will submit a DE&I and/or health equity goal by the end of the first quarter, and then 80% will achieve this goal by the end of the fiscal year in August. And so this toolkit that we developed, which I'm going to lead up into that, was really intended to provide some framing and support for the different leaders that are responsible for coming up with a goal. And I could share too about the format, because we were really intentional with thinking about categories of goals, like activities that departments can do without needing too many resources, and of course, types of goal statements that are in SMART goal format so that they are measurable. I think a challenge, and I will share that a challenge that I experienced doing the work in the DEI space is that it's difficult to measure in some of the traditional ways of measurement. So I get asked a question a lot, like, well, how do you measure progress? How do you measure this? And I think those are really great questions to ask me, because it helps me think about, okay, yeah, we have to think about measurement. But anyways, I digress a little bit. But the toolkit does include sample goal activities in SMART goal formats. So when we introduced this to our leaders, it was really important for us to first have communication to them and messaging to them saying, this is new, like this is a new goal for us. But we realized that having a localized effort where leaders are establishing and identifying DE&I and health equity goals, it creates a stronger foundation for this work for our organization. But also, we're not expecting anyone to do this perfectly. This type of work is meant to be trial and error and experimentation at times. So we're not expecting perfection. I think that we sometimes get a sense that everything we need to do, it needs to be excellent, and that, you know, can sometimes create sort of a little bit of difficulty for people to really feel like to set themselves up for success. So we want to set people up for success here. And then another point, I'm not going to read the bullet points to you, but the main point of the last 3 bullet points is that we understand that each leader as an individual are in a different part of their own DE&I and health equity understanding journey. It's a journey. So you're in a constant state of learning and growth, and we recognize people are not always in the same place. So this goal and this toolkit and everything we're introducing to our leaders was not meant to be something that was a one-size-fits-all approach. And then we presented this at the town hall again. This is the timeline. This was us saying, like, this is what the year will look like, because I think a lot of our leaders are very focused on what's next. So we're still in quarter 1. I do have a series of office hours set up, and that's where Michael and I worked together a couple of weeks ago to coach some leaders around kind of their goal setting for the respect for people category. One piece, and I'm not going to dive too deeply into this, but you'll see we say that in the beginning of the fiscal year, it's an assessment. The end of the fiscal year is an assessment. I actually partnered with our learning and development team to create a type of an assessment, like questionnaire that our leaders filled out. And I'll show you a little bit of the high level results of what we had around the questionnaire, because the intention is let's assess where our leaders are in their understanding of DE&I and health equity. And then at the end of the fiscal year, let's see what progress they may have made. So this is as of September, the second week of September, that there that there seems like a large number of leaders seem to have a perception of a strong understanding of DEI and health equity in terms of just terminology. So we just wanted to see where we are with that. But there are some people who do disagree, like they may not feel like they have a strong understanding. And then there's also a rating around their comfort level about talking about DE&I and about identifying ways to focus on health equity and creating environments of inclusion, and of course, understanding how to navigate diverse viewpoints. And so this sort of result is much more varied. And so this was really meant to be super high level. I think the number of respondents we have for this was about 130 people. So it was a good number of people that responded to this questionnaire. So we will, be keeping tabs on like this type of information. Excuse me. Other information we asked in the questionnaire were open-ended questions, which I'm not putting here because there's so many responses, but we asked questions around what are some perceived barriers you anticipate with achieving your goal? What types of support and resources do you think you need? So we have a lot of open-ended answers with that. So anyway, so that's kind of like my setup to now the toolkit. So this toolkit, so in this town hall, we also led up to this in the same way. So we introduced the toolkit, which includes a series of types of resources for our leaders to help them with this respect for people core goal. So definitions, these are our organization's endorsed definitions for diversity, equity, health equity, and inclusion. We have a governance structure that includes a DE&I leadership council. So the council last year endorsed definitions for the organization. So, we have that listed as a resource for people, but we also have the definitions on our intranet page. The list of activities, which I will go into more detail shortly, that's really the list of examples of activities and SMART goals that people can use. These sample goals and activities, essentially how we created this list, I had a work group doing it, so I wasn't doing it on my own. I had a number of people who represented different areas of the organization give their input, and we were, we worked on this for about, I think, a month and a half to finalize this list, and we were really intentional with, okay, what type of activities or example goals can we share that would demonstrate impact that frontline employees will feel, and that was a very, very important criteria for this list. And there are a number of other supporting materials like a holiday calendar, office hours if people wanted some support in the first quarter, that are all on our intranet page. And then our leader goal setting guide. I have a little bit of this information in this deck, which I could show you. We have sort of like a worksheet that leaders can use and help like start the process of self-reflecting as a leader, and that can walk them through, okay, now that you reflected, take this to your team, have a conversation with your team. And so the intent of this guide is really to help them walk through the process of reflecting and then goal setting with their team. So, and then of course, the recording of the meeting is also available on the page. So in terms of the activity, well, why don't I stop there for a second, and I'd love to see if anybody has any questions so far. Because I know I'm talking a lot. Yes.
I have a question. I've not seen equity and health equity broken out like that before, and I'm curious as to like, I just don't know the difference, and I'm curious about the difference. And then also, I'm really trying to understand how we can use this to improve our improvement work. So this concept of I think there's a there in terms of like by understanding these different lenses and these different potential whether if it's health equity and care gaps, or we're able to open our eyes to other maybe blind spots that we have, that we can continue to improve our organization and all facets of it. So I'm questioning both of those things. So I'm wondering if you could go into that further, but also just clarification on equity, health equity a little bit.
Yes, so I'll start with the equity, health equity differences. So I'll start with health equity. So health equity, because we are a healthcare institution, I think that kind of comes more natural to us in terms of the scope of our work. Health equity really is defined around a few things: the access to equitable and relevant healthcare and quality healthcare for people regardless of their background is one element of health equity. Another element of health equity is addressing and eliminating disparities in health. When we talk about equity, the way I would explain that is that it's much more broad, because when it comes to equity, if you think about it societally, there are different elements in our society where equity does or does not exist. And so, like, actually my background before coming to Stanford was not in healthcare. It was actually in nonprofit administration, and I worked a lot in the social equity space. So that kind of equity work that I was doing was really around educational equity, or access to education, access to food, which also has overlap with health equity, right? Access to nutrition and affordable like nutrition resources. I mean, that's related to health equity, that's related to social equity, housing equity, things like that. So equity in itself is a much broader concept. I think when we talk about it in a workplace situation, equity can also relate to things like access to learning and development resources, where people from underrepresented backgrounds feel like they are on a level playing field with people of the dominant group to access higher career positions, aspirations, professional development, so things like that. So equity is much broader. So that's how I would explain the difference. And Ryan, you were asking as well about sort of how this applies into improvement, or looking at improvement. Was that that second part of your question?
Yeah, I mean, it was fairly vague what I said, but yes, correct.
I think I heard you say mention, like, is this around like addressing gaps? And absolutely, I think when we talk about equity and health equity, it's about addressing gaps, but not just addressing, ultimately eliminating those gaps as well. And those gaps of access, or primarily access, I would say, just as my way of explaining the definitions.
Okay.
Great. And I see, Michael, I see your comment in the chat about making sure, LEP patients and families have daily access to status updates in their language. I mean, language access is huge. You could talk about language access in society, you could talk about language access in healthcare. I mean, there's a lot of equity issues there as well. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, Leslie, for time purposes,
oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. We have a component where we want to be able to discuss some of this. So yes. I wonder if you could share, you wanted to share your toolkit, right?
Yes. So I can go through this pretty quickly, and I'll skip a couple slides that I have. So we simply, in terms of the toolkit list of activities and sample goals, we had two categories. We had entry level and mid-level. Entry level was really around either existing efforts that are happening, and departments can tag on to that as part of their Respect for People goal, or we had quarterly staff meeting ideas of topics you can bring. But with that, we were really intentional with saying, we recommend that you also have some type of action paired with that education. So you can bring in a speaker to your quarterly staff meeting, but what are you going to do with that information? And really conceptualizing action. Mid-level is more of an advanced level. So there are some areas in our organization where there's a lot of great work already happening. And so we want to acknowledge the fact that we're not asking people to do something different or something extra. We're asking you to just look at what you're doing. You might already be doing something related to DE&I and health equity, and maybe leverage that as your goal. And so I'm happy to share my deck with you all too later, but these are the ones I'm going to actually skip because these are examples of advocacy activities that we presented around like this is what you can tap into in partnership with the Department of Pediatrics as an example. But I have a few screenshots of what it looks like. So I mean, this is just kind of the internet page. It's nothing really glamorous, but you can see what we have currently in terms of the resources we have. So we have resources specific to this goal setting process. We have resources around like just background information, like this is our governance structure. This is our DE&I Council strategic plan. Here are organizational definitions and additional things like a holiday calendar and the HEAL initiative, which is actually through the Department of Pediatrics, but we are partnering with them on a few things this year. And then the We Ask Because We Care initiative, which is actually Stanford medicine-wide. This is, it's a multi-page document, but this is what it looks like. This is how we broke it down. This is just like a snapshot of some of our entry-level examples. So here's how you can achieve the goal. This is your plan. And then your suggested goal statement that you can submit. And some of the measurements here are performance measurements. And then any materials that may be helpful to this specific activity. And then sorry, I didn't actually start from all the way on the left, but if you look on the left column, there's a bunch of different icons that help categorize, like a check mark means this is something that is upcoming or already happening. This type of activity will impact the staff or impact your patients or both, as well as the community. And then if there's a heart, it means, do this with action, like take action from this with this activity, if that makes sense. So, so there's, this is entry level, and then this would be our mid-level. So this is just another example around like, this is what you could do if you feel like your department or your team or your unit may be a little more ahead of the curve with this work. You're not starting from the beginning or starting from scratch, if that makes sense. So you'll see the second activity on this screen has an LEP activity. And so I've actually seen a few people, or one or two at least, goals submitted that are tapping into You Can Ask cards or some type of LEP activity. I could see that they pulled it directly from this guide. And that's kind of it. That's all I have in terms of the toolkit in itself. I'm gonna just stop there in the interest of time, because then that way we can there can be time for discussion. But that's what we created. That's where we are.
I really like that a lot. I think I particularly like how you put SMART goals to each of those, and you have different audiences that you're targeting it toward. I think that's really great. I think that's a really nice toolkit. And so what I'll probably ask from you is if you could get me that link, and I'll put it in we'll put it when we send it out, the minutes and recording to everybody.
Yeah, the toolkit is in our intranet page, and I don't know if everyone can access it, but I could send the actual document as well. Yeah,
great. And then, so what I want to do is I want us to get to the breakouts. So what I'm going to do right now is, Jakaria, I know you went into the mural, would you go ahead and paste that into the chat for everybody? What I would like to do is I want to share real quick while we're doing that and while we're getting the groups divided. I want to share quickly the where you can find the recordings to these. So I don't know if you've all taken a look, but since I have a captive audience and it's being recorded, I want to share with you. We have this webpage. So every month I'm trying to update it with the current topic that we'll be discussing and the image that we come up with. And then at the bottom, you see we have each of the little tool time sessions, where if you just wanted to watch the tool time session, you can click on these. If you wanted the full meeting recordings, you can see the bottom here. And then even if you wanted to see the lecture series that we did on SCIP, you can do that. If someone wanted to know more about SCIP, they could do that. Just wanted a little plug there. It's located on the SMCI website, up at the top banner, SMCI right there. I mean SCIP right there. Okay, So I'm going to stop sharing there. And if everyone has the link, go ahead and jump into the mural, and then we'll have, so for your purposes, Leslie, here's what we do. We go ahead and we jump into small groups, and then we discuss. So the topics we'll be discussing are on the mural. So if you're team 1, go ahead and use that first one, team 2, team 3, team 4, etc. And log your information, and then we'll come back. And when we come back, Ashley is going to do a debrief with us. Okay? Selena, you want to?
Are we
Jakari, yeah, this is
for
the
the
group.
recording purpose? Okay,
Yes,
great,
yes.
awesome.
So it may just be me and you. It looks like Leslie, you're
Hi,
happy. You can
Leslie.
join us if you'd like.
Yes, please do.
Sure.
Awesome.
And Lisa
So-
may be unavailable. So
Okay,
Yeah.
and then how many groups did you do, Selena?
we did. There's 3 groups.
So we would be 4.
Yes, we're the
Okay.
4th group.
We should just take 4 to make sure. Okay, perfect. So first of all, Leslie, thanks for sharing that. I know that from the adult side, we have a real opportunity to look at how we create goals and how we help departments, leaders translate them and then cascade them. So even your toolkit brought a lot of light and ideas for me. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to getting all of the materials.
Yeah.
As team 4, it looks like when or where have you used, oh, wait, this is the old one. Did I send the wrong link? Oh, no, here we go. Why does this one say spaghetti diagrams for team 4? I think just the first question is off. You guys see that? So I think the first question should be, how could you incorporate the DE&I ideas to your team's work?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And so we can definitely pull Post-its if we want. I think one thing that, is it letting us edit? Ah, here we go.
I see others editing.
Yep. Okay.
I'm just slow to the mural, to be honest.
That's okay. Does anybody have any ideas that they want to share before?
Where am I looking at?
Oh, I'll share my screen. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay,
Let me
great.
do that.
I mean, it's a really cool tool. I've never seen this before. But
Mural's like a PI ninja tool.
oh, I see. Cool. Okay.
So we did put the link in the chat if you want to play as
Yeah.
well, but pretty
I
much.
have it. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to change this question. So how could you incorporate DE&I ideas into your team's work? I think part of DE&I work is hearing how the team feels about equity and their opportunities, right? So more listening. I would say to the current state, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Of team.
Yeah, listening to the current state, I would even say beyond just understanding people's perceptions of opportunity, but also how they feel a sense of belonging in their organization. That's something where I think we're seeing this shift in just the workplace in general, where people want to be seen as their whole selves. So it's less of a, oh, leave this about you at home, but only bring this to work. It's like people want to bring their whole selves to work. So how can an employer like us create a space where people feel included?
And then I also added, so to educate on the components of DE&I. I think there's a lot of demystifying that could go on to help people really understand the purpose and the power. Absolutely. Okay. So then the second question says, what has your team tried to increase health equity? You know, I'm in the wrong mural. That's what happened, Selena. Let me see. Let me go to SCIP. That's why our questions were off.
It said October on the top.
Oh, no, it was October. Okay,
Mhm.
just kidding. I'm in the right one. I just don't see any other Post-its. I only see our Post-its.
Maybe they're still talking it out.
Okay. Okay. All right.
On
'Cause I
the
see
first group is putting Post-its.
Okay, I see people in there. So how has our team tried to increase health equity? Selena, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I know our team in the improvement side has been doing like our employee spotlights when we huddle or when we have our weekly message. Um, I don't. Does team building count as part of equity or?
It
I don't know.
can.
I was about to say we have the expert in the room. We can ask.
Yeah. Does team building is that part of equity?
It can. It's with the acronyms in my job, in my title, there's a lot of overlap and a lot of like very specific ways to define. I think something like team building can definitely help increase a sense of inclusion and also equity in terms of feeling like I have a place here, like feeling like I'm an equal member of the team. I think with specifically to increasing health equity. So this is a very interesting question because health equity, this is my personal perception is coming to Stanford Medicine, health equity is very much defined in a clinical setting. But there's actually a lot of things we can do as an organization where we're not, like I'm not a clinical staff. So what can I do to help with health equity? And part of it can be contributing to education, right? I think it ties into the previous post-it on like educating on components, educating on components of specifically health equity, and also recognizing the role that Stanford Medicine has played historically in even perpetuating some of the health inequities that exist in society. So it's sort of, I feel like that's my long-winded answer to say, I think education is a big part in trying to increase health equity. Yeah, that's what I would say as one component.
Interesting.
Yeah. And yeah, see, providing feedback when asked about experiences, I think that's huge. That's a huge part of education too. And also education can tie into things like understanding the patient and family experience with us. Just really expanding understanding in that area too.
So I'm going to put to that point involving, because we have, what are they called when their patients come and they participate in teams and stuff, they give feedback?
PFAC?
What is it?
PFAC?
PFEC?
PFAC, Patient Family Advisory Councils.
Oh yeah, and we have those too. Yeah, like parent or
Yes.
patient, yeah, parent councils, or family advisory councils, what we call them.
Yeah. And I think we need to do a better job of making sure that's part of the work we do. A lot of times
Yes.
we just dive into, let's get a current state map. Let's define the problem. Let's get some data. And it's like,
yeah.
But did we really do a complete stakeholder analysis to understand everybody that's involved in this process and in this experience? So
yeah, exactly. And that toolkit that we created, one of the repeating contributors of goal ideas or activity ideas is our family-centered care team, who actually owns our family advisory councils. And so their director actually had a lot of great input to share into that toolkit. So it's great to put it out in front of everyone, like, hey, we need to engage our families, in what we're doing. So that's definitely something that can help increase health equity. Another piece too is more community facing, understanding. I keep saying it's education, but education is so layered, right? Because there's so many things to understand and learn. And so specifically with the community piece, understanding sort of what are the issues that our local communities are facing, and even understanding like, why do members of our community come or don't come to Stanford for healthcare? You know, do they see us as accessible? And if not, why?
Yeah. And I know that different groups are doing, you know, listening tours or out in the community. But now that we're all under one umbrella, I wonder if there's an opportunity to do a little bit more of this together, because every part of our umbrella hears different things that catch their eye. But if we could really come together with a collaborative strategy and plan for executing on how we're really going to hear our community, respond to our community, and welcome our community, I think it'll be a lot more effective than if Children's does it. And what are we, S&P now, UHA, whatever, right? Like, I think we'll feel, we'll feel the impact in a larger, it'll just feel like a larger impact if we actually approach this together. And I think the community will see it as authentic, because if a family has Stanford for their healthcare, they don't look at Children's as one thing and the adult, right? They just see, I have Stanford, so I'm getting all these services. And so we need to be unified in how people experience us. And I'll give a funny story just really quickly. I had a doctor's appointment today at 11:55. So I still use Kaiser because it's convenient, right? Because it's right around the corner, blah, blah, blah. I got there at 11:40. I saw my PCP. I got all my vaccines updated. I had to get 2. He scheduled me a mammogram. I walked over, got the mammogram, then got my shoulders x-rayed, and he scheduled my MRI appointment on a Sunday evening because that's all that worked for me. And I did all that in 45 minutes. And they gave me a scarf when I got my mammogram, right? I walked in and I said, I only have an hour because I got to get back home for another meeting. They said, great. And they did everything, even warm handoff. They walked me from my mammogram to x-ray to make sure I didn't get lost because they knew I was short for time. Like, just hearing what your patient wants or needs or what's important to them is critical. Now, they don't do a lot of other things that we do amazingly, right? I go there for convenience, but they have preventative care and efficiency down. And so it's like, well, what can we learn from them? And then how do they do it in a way that I didn't feel like I was just a number in their system, right? That I'm important. So definitely interesting. Definitely interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important. It's hearing and understanding the needs of the patients and responding to them, and understanding too that patients from, you know, like, let's just use language, for example, like patients who speak different languages might have different ways of interpreting or different comfort levels even of interacting in healthcare. Yeah.
So the flip side of that is we can't always be laying down. We also have to empower our teams to know how to respond.
Yes.
When someone doesn't feel that they're being handled equitably.
Correct.
Right? To know when that's accurate and when there's just a misperception and misinformation. And then how do we give them the accurate information in a way that they can receive it without feeling attacked, belittled, or not heard? So it's a big bucket of work, I think.
Yes.
To dwindle it down to 2 questions in 20 minutes is like, haha. So I don't envy you for the work you have ahead of you, Leslie, but it's definitely important. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, it is a lot of work, but it's good work. It's important.
Selena, maybe if we can broadcast that we have like 3 minutes.
Okay.
And we don't have to hold everybody since there's only 2 questions. Do you mind?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, and this is your first time coming to hang with us. And I know that you said you did some PI stuff over the summer, like a crash course. Just know you're always welcome to come. A lot of times we just do regular PI tools, and Ryan showed us the site, but we had someone walk through spaghetti diagrams. We had somebody walk through. So just fun, cool stuff. If you ever just want to hang out.
I didn't know this group existed until Michael asked me to come, and my crash course over the summer really was understanding not just about improvement, but also about like the process that we go through every year for our annual goal setting. And I was involved in a previous core goal. In fiscal year 21, we actually created a goal around DE&I training where we rolled out an unconscious bias training. So the goal was that 100% of our leaders would complete a DE&I training, and 50% of our whole workforce will have completed like the self-paced version of this training. So I was a little involved with like the development of that goal statement, and then I was very involved in rolling out the training. And then this goal statement, I was much more involved with not just developing the statement, but also developing the resources that we anticipate people needing.
Yeah, that's a huge part of goal setting being successful when the execution is that people actually have resources to help them understand what it is, how to do it, and a button to push if it's not working, right? So you've given them the office hours. Like, I think you've done a wonderful job
Thank you.
looking at all three of those facets, because without any one of those, your success rate goes down tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is part of that, I know we're going to pull in a little bit, but is part of your work then that piece we were talking about of once we have an interaction as a health provider with someone who's not satisfied, that we know how to rebound from that too, right? Because there's the leadership level, but then there's that patient interaction when we talk about health equity.
Yeah, it is both, but I think where we are, I feel like not just at Children's, I think in all of our entities, there's an element where I think there's still, how would I say it, like a sense of leadership, awareness, and accountability around this work. And I don't say accountability in a punitive way. I mean accountability like the leaders understand, each like leader understands that they have a direct role in this, and also they understand what that impact is from their individual perspective as a leader, and then how they can empower their team. So like you're saying, if there was a patient interaction that was not very favorable, then team members will know how to respond to that, or they would know who they can turn to for support. So really a lot of what I try to do is sort of empowering others to own this, and not make it like, oh, we had a patient saying microaggressive comments to our nurses, so let's call Leslie to figure out what to do. It's like, oh, you can call me, but you should also like, let's work together to figure out how you can respond to something like this next time it happens.
Yeah, and then how do you share it with others, right? So
Exactly.
Okay. Did you push the button yet to snatch everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Bringing everyone back now.
Oh, and
this is great.
Screen, yeah.
Yeah, this is a great topic. So
okay,
I mean, we could spend hours on this.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
We could spend hours. I spend hours on this.
It's like lots of hours.
Lots of hours.
Do either one of you want to report back what we said, or do you want me to do it? I don't mind, but I feel like I talk all the time in these things. So
I feel like maybe it wouldn't be fair if I spoke, because
okay.
I guess that means that's me.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Ashley, you're up.
All right. I think we're all back from our breakout.
Yes, we're all back.
Okay, awesome. Well, this was a really good discussion, at least for our team. I'm curious to hear from others and see what good ideas came up in your group. But thank you to Leslie for leading a great tool time for us and teaching us about the toolkit for DE&I. And it's great to hear about the strides that Children's Health is making. So just to recap some of the ideas that came up in our group, and how we can incorporate some of these ideas into our team's work. We had a group of 3 different PI individuals, one at Children's, one at SHC, and I'm at Tri-Valley. And we all agreed that in the work that we do daily with different project teams and using our PI tools like our beloved A3 and all of the analysis tools that we use, how they're built out, it doesn't include really space for DE&I. And that's really, you know, when you think about it, because these tools are tried and true, right? We know that they work the way that they're set up. But, you know, who's to say that when we start working, for example, on the right side of the A3, and we talk about interventions in our sustain plan, to always try to include the conversation about DE&I. And maybe we can add, you know, our own little box on the A3 to make sure it's included in the conversation. Or on the left side, when you're gathering data, just reminding your project teams that to remember that we can have a DE&I lens, and it may not always be obvious and right there, but at least having the question on the forefront will start to kind of keep the organization invested and project teams involved in the topic. And then, yeah, we talked about increasing health equity in our teams, and we just talked about how our organizations are definitely endorsing this idea across the board, just by having it in operational plans and by rolling out things like We Ask Because We Care, which I'm sure most of you have seen lots of emails about. So these are all great initiatives that most of our teams are involved in, whether it's direct patient care or kind of in the background doing work. And yeah, so what are some other ideas that came up in breakout rooms as far as how we can incorporate it into our work?
Jake, you look like you're about to say something.
No,
Go
I
ahead.
don't want to. I have so much to say. I don't want to start.
Pick one thing.
All right. Well, no. Ryan, you go first. Let me regather my thoughts. I don't know.
Nice.
Okay, I'll say
Okay,
this.
I will.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, so I love what you said, Ashley, about the right side of the A3. And one of the things that we were talking about in ours is that really equity and all of this work seems to be a lens by which we can look through and see our improvement work and identify opportunities. And so one of the things we were thinking is maybe like when the concept of when you use a FMEA, you're looking for the potential failure modes in your work, either in the front of your project or even at the end when you're developing that sustain plan. We can look from that lens of equity to be able to see it, maybe see some of our gaps, see some of the things that are blind spots to us. And if we purpose to use that, almost like putting on different glasses, right? So we purpose to do that, we might be able to see opportunities that we wouldn't see otherwise. So that was one of the things we talked about.
Yeah, I like that point you made too, Ashley. The thing we discussed in our team, I was with Rancel and Ryan. Rancel's from nursing professional development or quality, something like that. And so you guys know Institute of Healthcare Improvement, IHI, had the triple aim for such a long time. Then they went to the quadruple aim about 4 or 5 years ago. And then they went to the quintuple aim 2 years ago. So are we then going to have a sextuple aim or septuple aim or octuple aim? And then, I mean, what is it going to get to? And so what we were talking about is this, we got to be careful about treating things like equity as domains, because, I mean, we could even go back and look at, because right now in all hospitals right now, you have cost as a domain, quality as domain, and patient experience. And now wellness and engagements become a domain. Patient experience could have been put under quality, because what is quality? It's consistently doing something well. Shouldn't we be, isn't well measured by how well that person feels that's getting our service? So there's, so what we talked about is a little bit on, I mean, it's a slippery slope, IHI and all of us are on, if we continue to add more domains. Like, is the next one going to be sustainability? And we're going to be sitting on a Zoom like this, like, okay, SMART goals got to be green. Or the next one's going to be around something new that we can't even imagine right now. And so we're not, we didn't really land us on a solution. I don't think Ryan and Ransel had to step off, but I feel like we talked to the point of how do you add a lens, actually, to your wording that you chose, without adding the complexity of another domain, because we got plenty of domains.
Can I say something to that? Because I think that was really powerful. Because one of my main mantras in doing this work, even before I came to Stanford, was about how this isn't meant to be a separate effort, but it's really about reframing the intentionality of what you're doing and what you're already doing. Right. So, Jake, to your points, it's not, this isn't really new. It feels new, right? It feels new because we're looking through it in a lens that we haven't done before, but it's always existed, you know? So I think that what you're saying is really, really great, because it's really around integrating the concepts of DEI into what we do.
I also feel that it's a maturity curve, right? I mean, you know, everybody is at a different point in that, in the diversity, equity, inclusion journey. And so sometimes, you know, you may have to start, you know, with having a domain so that there is enough conscious focus on that effort. And then as you build maturity, it can get better integrated into our processes in the organization, right? So I like to look at it from a maturity curve perspective too.
Awesome. Thank you all for your comments. I think this is such a great conversation, and just based on Ryan's little graphic he put together, we definitely are adding some things to our hood of our car, and this conversation will continue after this meeting. But in the interest of time, I want to make sure we get to our Like, Wish, Wonder board, which Ryan will launch so we can get some thoughts and ideas from everyone before we close out the day.
Yep. Okay, so all of you already are in the mural. You have access to it. If you go to the bottom of the mural, right below all of the Post-its, there is a Like, I Wish, I Wonder section. We'd like you to take the last few minutes, go ahead and put it like you do on brainstorming, put as many as you can. So things you liked about this, things you wished we would have done or talked about or considered. And then the wonder, really, it could be anything, but largely it could also be, I wonder if maybe next time we talked about this, potential topics, things that think out of the box, things that you'd love this group to do. So we do, like I say every time, we take this feedback, we use this feedback to make next time better. So we do practice the PDSA concept, and this is a good piece of that feedback for us. This is the study part. Great.
One highlight that Leslie, I just want to make sure you hear. Thank you for making this a safe place to talk about something that can often be so politically charged. I felt like you created this, and Ryan and team, thanks for doing that too. Because it's sometimes we feel like we're walking on glass talking about this topic, but appreciate the way you set it up.
I appreciate that. I actually realized I didn't do my whole, what are some ground rules you'd like to set for each other? A lot of times when I do facilitate a conversation, I try to do that. So thank you, Jake, and everyone who said that this felt like a safe space. It's always my intention to try to create safe spaces for these types of conversations. And yeah, it's important. I don't think it's limited to having safe space for just talking about DE&I. I think it's about a whole series of types of topics where we can really be do better in creating psychologically safe spaces for that.
Well said, Jake. Thanks for pointing that out. And Leslie, yes, thank you very much. This was outstanding. I really, really appreciate it.
So we will definitely share the materials from Leslie with the group that came. I'm not going to send it to 170 people, which is our distribution list, but I have a snippet. So we will definitely send out her deck and the toolkit, since we can't necessarily access it if we're not children's employees, through the QR code. Because I did try. I was like, ooh, QR code, let me do it. Said no. But we really appreciate, Leslie, you coming today and sharing this, because I think there's opportunities, as we said in our breakout, to make sure that we're unified across the entire umbrella with this work, because our patients don't just go to Children's or just UHA or just, they experience our entire system. So we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we're aligned. Ryan, do you have any closing thoughts as people are winding up the wish, wonder, and we'll digest it outside of the space so that people can be on time, and maybe even have a bio break before their next meeting. Who knows? I don't know.
Just
Wishful thinking.
We can pursue our passions.
So just want to say thank you to all of you that have attended, and please share the word with others, recruit others, share the invite with others, because we would like to grow this community. We find that the people who are here, we are building such great community within these groups. I feel like I know many of you very well, and it's largely through this. And when we see each other out in community, which is happening more and more, we're that much closer. And as we do more collaborative work, we're that much closer. So please, let's build this community and help us to market that. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for your time. Really enjoyed seeing you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. See you right next week, Jakaria.
Yes, you